We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Anascoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. And now is public comment period.
No public comments.
No public also.
No. Our staff is on Zoom.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Hello, staff. So I'll move into the discussion and action items, starting with 3.1, the 2023-2024 estimated actions. And turn it over to General Manager John.
So not a big change with the estimated actuals. Right now we're looking, but we were at a $20,000 surplus, and now we're at $188 surplus, is zero essentially. So that's because the last time we met before the tax revenue for March was in, and so now it is in, and it is a bit under. It was 16,000 less than last year, so then the projections, which is last year. So, but it's the good news is it looks like the drops are slowing down. So
that's good.
Let's be optimistic about something. They were dropped by 20 and then 22%, and now it's dropped by only 13.5%. So it's an improvement. And I would assume that the drops might not continue as heavily into the next months, just because the revenue from last time also dropped around April. Meaning I think that we had anomalies in March and February in terms of how much we collected those months last year. And so the drop should start to level off, is my estimate. But yeah, that's the main update for the estimated actuals, is that we're pretty much looking at a zero budget year, plus or negative. I mean, this will change for sure still, but that's just what's estimated right now. And we are, like I talked about at the retreat, controlling spending more heavily, but we're still spending the money we have on important things that, but we're just doing it, triple checking instead of double checking every expense. So.
That seems like a good strategy.
Yeah.
Any comments or discussion about the estimated actions? Okay, then we'll move on to 3.2. The 2024-2025 budget projections.
Okay, I think I just wanted to use this time to hear out from you all the takeaways from the retreat, and what specific directions you guys think we should go in following that discussion at the retreat. I haven't made any changes to the potential budget yet, just because I wanted us to talk about it here today first on what we thought. So I can pull up the retreat. I think what I heard from the board at the retreat was to prioritize. Sorry, let me just, can't do two things at once. Was definitely to prioritize, public-facing services. I heard that I didn't hear any discussion on what to do about the staff salaries. So, if anybody recalls differently, but I heard that the compost being as robust was less of a priority. But also to give the staff the tools they need to be successful. So to not cut so much that they can't do their jobs. And then we have a separate discussion to talk about raising revenue from the rentals, which we'll get into in terms of what we want to aim for. But yeah, those were my main takeaways, was prioritize public facing of all the programs. I think the spaces would be the most and the compost the lowest. And to give the staff what they need to be successful. So, yeah.
Although it does seem that there was comment made that the aggregate amount of the staff COLA was not that big a number. And that
Okay.
we did really want to honor the staff because we feel like we have a team of superstars.
I didn't
So,
remember that, but thanks for
Yeah,
mentioning it.
but
Yeah.
that I did, so I felt like there was some level of implicit support.
Yeah.
For COLA raise.
Yeah, it is $20,000. So, in the grand scheme. Anything else? Any general like takeaways for me to start working on as I continue to make edits on this? Right now, the budget is in a decent spot. It's only negative 4,000.
Mhm.
So that just means we'd have to take 4,000 more out of our fund balance. We're already taking out 100,000. So not a big change from 100 to 104,000. And that will get us, similar to what we talked about last time. Maintains all our staff in place for the most part. It does get rid of some intern positions. It lowers our equipment and marketing spending in some areas. Maintains most of the important community spaces programs. Yeah, and has pretty much all of our administrative expenses in, except there are some reductions in like office expenses and things like that. So yeah, is there anything you all feel like is something to focus on? I mean, I know we talked about the parking budget issue came up, but that's not anything we have any information on. But I know, Spencer, you talked about like if we want to do an allocation to a parking fund. So I think we don't even have to do that through the budget necessarily. We can just move it within the fund balance. But that would be something else. Like we're planning to end next year at 337,000. So you could say, let's take 150, let's say, or half. Actually, half is a little more, and put it into a parking fund.
Yeah, I think that would help to address some of the comments about just being prepared to implement it.
Yeah.
And not having seen any recommendations, I don't know if the right number is for that, but I seem prudent that we try to capture as much of the cost as we could conceive of at this point. And I think generally, like the big things in my head that are still really outstanding are we don't know where the IVCSD programs are at.
And I followed up to have that meeting.
Well, that's good. So we'll have a more complete picture soon. The other thing that I feel like we had some discussion on, but really not with all the information, is the compost collective. Because we got the presentation from Community Spaces and from IV Beautiful about the different sorts of sort of like belt tightening that they're doing, and we didn't get one of those from the compost collective. We kind of talked about it briefly at the last finance committee meeting, but I guess I would be hoping to see something like that as well from compost collective. I think that was a discussion that seemed like the board was interested in having.
Yeah, Carly's on vacation this week and next, so she wasn't able to do it for today. But I think that the main belt tightening that's even possible in the compost collective outside of permanent staff is to reduce the extra help. So I reduced it by 13,000 already, as well as the equipment. We can reduce it more. I mean, there's a decision point like the 50,000 for the extra help, which is like the dirt riders. It's not exactly half and half, but half of it is to manage the piles, like the manual labor, and half of it is the collection program. So you could technically reduce that down. You could take away more house spots, essentially, by reducing that down further. But I think that's really the main avenue that could be done there.
this isn't really like a finance committee question, but I know that we like hired a consultant for the
Mhm.
compost collective. Did that decrease the amount of labor that we need to manage the piles? Did it end up doing that?
Yeah, like
Okay.
the one from last year.
Mhm.
Yes, it did. It got us to the point where we can turn it in 6 weeks and have a really streamlined process.
Mhm.
But we had budgeted for that.
Mhm.
That's we didn't see any budget savings because we budgeted as if we would be successful
Mhm.
with that consultant study.
Okay.
Great.
And I mean, just thinking out loud of like what I could see happening with the presentation, about belt tightening is like, I assume obviously with the extra help, there's gonna be a natural amount of attrition that happens. And so like
Yeah.
people going out of positions.
Mhm.
So that, reducing that budget wouldn't necessarily reduce like an active human.
It wouldn't. We have a
Yeah.
lot graduating in
Mhm.
June, actually.
So I think that seems like an opportunity place. And maybe that's associated, I'm assuming that there's also some natural attrition with like households that are signed up. I mean, I know that there is a wait list, which,
Right.
gets tapped into, but maybe we pause tapping into the wait list and just let that natural attrition take its course. But, I'm not the expert on how the program is run, so that's why I think it would be really helpful for us to, hear how how they recommend best managing the tough situation that we're in.
I agree.
I did have another question too. Does this incorporate the staff reorganization cost?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And does it incorporate like merit raises slash
It
COLA?
does count merit raises in here.
And COLA.
And COLA, yeah. It is like the most expensive version. Yeah.
Well, I guess, is that all? I think that's also on our agenda to just talk about.
The reorg budget, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can jump around it. So if you guys want to talk about that, I could go into it.
Are we ready to move to a different item then? Is that talked about?
If you guys are.
Sure. So we want to skip then to 3.4?
We can do the 3.4 now because I
Okay.
think it's a simpler one.
Staff reorganization budget.
So the budget for doing the reorganization, keeping everything else the same besides the two roles, being creating the assistant general manager, eliminating the basis program manager, and creating the new director role, would be $13,000 in additional cost. That's because you're losing like $80,000 in spending and really adding less than that. Oh, not much more than that. So it's not that much additional funding. It'll take and it's not in the budget yet, but it'll take this 4,500 to 17,000. The other idea that's on the table that was talked about at the retreat was having our project manager become full-time. That would cost around, here, I have it actually up somewhere else. Let me pull it up. That would cost us about $30,000. So, but I don't know. I think let's talk about that once we get more also into the rental fees discussion. But that's just so you know, if we wanted to make that position full-time, it would cost an additional $30,000. But just the assistant general manager and programs director, those two would cost $13,000 additional.
And then eliminating an administrative assistant role. Who do we have to do like scheduling and posting documents, updating things, all that stuff? How are you thinking that's going to get handled?
All the billings and finances our accountant can handle. Posting the agenda, if we create the assistant general manager role, that position does those functions, could do those functions too. So it would just take a change in how we do some things and
And tapping into interns or
interns. Yeah,
lower level staff members for specific tasks.
Yeah.
Because you do need that kind
we
of
do need some
effort. Yeah.
help. Yeah. So, but that's not included in the financial picture.
And I think for the general manager and assistant general manager, it's important to keep a big picture view going. And if you get dragged down into the, very picky details too much, it's hard to keep the focus.
Right. Right. No, I think, I mean, with the accountant, we'd have the help with a lot of the
Yeah, no,
little
that's a
picture
good
stuff
fit.
we
That's
get
definitely-
anyways. That's the majority of the,
And she's working out very well, huh?
she is. And in the last week, her and I have handled everything that we need to handle. So
Phew.
yeah, she's fast.
Good.
So as a part of the, like bringing back or refreshing the AGM role,
Mhm.
is the job description, we're just gonna roll it over from what we had last time, or is it gonna be
No, I'm gonna
updated?
update it completely. We're gonna have that ready for the next, not this coming board meeting, but the one after, the 28th, for approval. So then at the next finance committee, if the board has approved the positions, we can incorporate them into the budget. The only question that we might have, and I guess it's part of the estimated actuals discussion, is do we want to implement that position in June or in July or even in August? It obviously has like minor effects on the budget either way. 1/12 of the cost will be either saved, expanded, kept the same. So that's the only question. If you guys have a, thought or preference on if we fund it sooner or later. Because if we did it in August, it saves us a really marginal amount, but maybe that's an important amount for us to help make it all balanced, but less from fund balance, but
My inclination would be to go for it as soon as we
Soon.
can pull it off.
okay.
I mean, once you have the idea, and, we've obviously lost our administrative assistant, so, there's gonna be a gap if you don't move right into it, it seems like. We want it to be successful.
Yeah.
So, while we're thinking about it, I'll put all this effort into it, it seems like, taking it on the road makes good sense.
I think my other question would be, so like with the reorganization and having like two people come into basically new roles, how would that work with like COLA and merit adjustments for salaries?
That's a good question. So it did, well, I guess it kind of depends on when we implement the roles. Like it can also be part of the decision. Like if we go off just the, if we don't customize it, if you create the position June 1st, technically the way the policy is written, the COLA would apply then. July 1st. You could write in a provision that it's not going to apply to this position this year, and that's totally fine and fair to do too. If you started July 1st, then the COLA is just kind of all, it doesn't get applied because that's when the position is created. But I think we'll put this all into the resolution. I think this is a good train of thought that I didn't completely think yet. The merit increases, the way it works is it resets the clock. So, and that's what's in our policy already. So our lawyers did think of that when they wrote that policy. So when you get a new promotion at IVCSD internally, your date for when you get a merit increase changes. So if it was always, let's say in August, but your promotion is now on June 15th, June 15th is your new evaluation date. So we'd still have to budget for it, but it would not really, I mean, we wouldn't really have to, right? Because it's only 2 weeks of the next year would be with the new pay if they got the merit increase. So. Good
Any
question.
other questions or comments or thoughts?
I kind of feel when it comes to the making the community spaces part-time position, full-time, the same way that I feel about some of the extra help positions, which is maybe it goes on a list that if the budget situation improves, once we have more information about what some of the spending is going to be on the big programs, and we feel that there is more wiggle room, then we make the decision then to sort of do a restoration and bring it back.
Yeah.
But they should kind of all be considered together so that we can, because it's like you know, there, at least with the extra help, like that's already kind of been cut, you know?
It's already been.
So it would almost feel weird to me, like we should like consider all that stuff together as kind of almost like the last step once we've got more revenue and spending in condition.
So in August.
In August or in July, whenever it is that
Yeah.
we feel like we have a more complete picture.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then that will also save some money by making it full-time later in the year. So,
That's right. Yeah, if we waited into the fiscal year change, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
yeah, we're gonna be in a downtime for the summer anyways, for the next few months, so we wouldn't need to spend all that money.
Makes sense.
Although we want to be ready for the fall.
We do wanna be ready.
It's gonna come roaring in. Okay, so we're ready to move on
Yes,
to 3.3, the 2024-2025 community spaces budget and rental fee schedule.
I'll turn it over to Maya to talk. We're gonna talk, less about the specifics of the rental fees. Then we'll go more to the policy committee to get into like, what should get charged or what should be waived. But we're gonna talk more today on the potential revenue and what we want to aim for. So it's gonna be an interesting process between like two different committees trying to take this on from different angles. So I think today we're more focusing on like what should we try to shoot for in revenue raised, and then we'll see if we'll see if that matches what the policies and the board's preferences are in terms of what should be charged and what shouldn't, and we'll meet in the middle eventually. Yeah, I'll turn it over to.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple graphs that Safia put together for us. So I did talk a little bit already. Let's see, you saw this slideshow at the end, or this Excel sheet, I guess I'll say, at the end of the board retreat. And we kind of looked at these different labels.
Did you zoom it in a little bit?
Yeah.
Zoom in a little.
You're seeing this, the Excel sheet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of broke it up into these labels, and then we just randomly assigned $20 an hour for everything. And that's what we have here. And so based on that rough estimate, we got a total of about $51,000. So I wanted to show you this and then also show you another visual. So here you can kind of see the most popular events.
We need this one then. We need this one. You can't see anything on this shit. It's just the projector situation we're in.
Very fair. Let me
Whereas your eyes are very zoomed in.
Is this better? Can you see this?
No. Yeah, I think make it like 200%.
200?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
Perfect.
So we start off with religious gathering. We have the most, and this is events, not hours. I wanted to show you both because just to start thinking about, hourly versus versus event. But this kind of goes down the chart. We have religious gathering, rehearsal, community service, class club meeting, workshop class, tournament, Greek life, performance, catering, dance, etc. And it just goes lower and lower and lower with the type of event that we saw in 2023. Same kind of chart, except by hour. We can see exactly how many per hour that we have that we can generate revenue from potentially. But what we really care about today,
We have a question.
Are we looking at hours now or events?
Yeah, the second one, this is ours.
this is hours. Mhm.
To run that out. I'm surprised that religious gatherings are such a dominant amount of hours.
They figured
So-
out rent a free space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also every single Sunday. And I think about 4 hours every Sunday. And then if you combine that with also the community room uses, sometimes if they have like 4 hours in the center and maybe they also use the room, which is quite common for like planning meetings. It is like a subset of the service.
Is this all one church or is
Pretty
it a
much.
bunch?
There's primarily one church. I would say there's about 3 in total. There's one I think primarily geared towards college students. There's one one kind of geared towards UCSB's campus, and then there's one for Spanish speaking residents. That's all in
And
Spanish.
just as a follow-up to that, the churches that do the homeless meals, is that included in this number or is
No,
that elsewhere?
That's community service.
That
That's
was-
community.
They
Okay.
call themselves, so that one was kind of a sticky one just because they call themselves Food for the Hungry as like a club, but it is run by a church, a group of churches. So they're not necessarily, yeah, so that was kind of a sticky one, but I could move that if that's something that you're
No,
interested.
I think I think it's good where it
Yeah.
is because it is a community service.
As
That's why
long
I
as they're
was asking the
feeding
question.
the community and not just their members.
Yeah.
In
anyone
which
can
case
go.
it's a party.
Exactly. So then I'll move over to the money. To the money, because we're the finance committee. So these are potential numbers of if we were to charge everything $20 an hour, potential revenue we could make. And when I added all of this together, instead of the 51,000 that I got on my spreadsheet, she actually gathered 52,000. So just something to keep in mind, there was like $1,000.
Same thing, yeah.
Pretty much.
That's a substantial difference.
Right. Right. So I
So
mean,
A great percentage of it is coming from a church.
$14,000 from one group.
Do
Yeah,
you think
so
they continue to use it if we charge them?
that's the
They
question.
paid way more than $20 an hour in the
Yeah.
past. They've been
We
happy
have
to do it.
charged them. We have charged them in the past and they were more than happy to pay.
We won't run them.
Yeah, just to add one thing in, so before our board put in our policies in terms of nonprofits having it for free and other things, they were paying like $300 to $400 a day. Because they were going off the
Space is
county fee
expensive.
schedule.
Let's face it.
So, yeah, we
Yeah.
got a check in 21, 22 from them for 3 weeks, 4 weeks of use for $2,000.
I will say for the next line item though, not the religious gathering, but for the rehearsal space,
Uh-huh.
I genuinely don't think that group has the budget for this. I mean, I think it would have to be a conversation with UCSB because it's a graduate group, but
Is it
I
just
know
one group? It's just
Huh?
one group? Is that just one group?
primarily, yeah, it is. They do a series of plays at the community center throughout the year. But yeah, it is one group.
So when like bands rehearse together, that's like a different line, or that doesn't happen? That's just my imagination.
No, no, it does. It's a newer thing, I would say, this year in 2024 than it was in 2023. So it might be a very small amount of this overall total, but I think that's really picked up this year. In addition, I want to point our attention to, because like music event free, they had a couple little things that I put in that category instead of rehearsal. But for example, this paid event, that's really low in 2023, but that's also because we weren't really allowing it. That was people doing it against our say, really. So I do think that come 2024, and because of the conversations I've had with some local groups, I think this will go up substantially.
Well, I
This
think you're
year.
right. For sure.
Yeah. Because this is really low. I think we could make, this amount in probably 2 events, and I can see a lot more than, 2 events happening the entire year.
Yeah, and Maya, one thing, if you could, I just thought of this now, while Carrie asked you the question, but for the rehearsals, could we break it up in the future between the theater rehearsal and, because I know we have groove nights, which I don't count necessarily as a rehearsal because like an event we're holding, but I know some of the bands, some of them ask for separate time for rehearsal or like band practice
Seems like a
essentially
great
on
space for
Sunday
that.
nights and stuff. So
Yeah,
Uh,
and I can just kind of show y'all right now, like this is all one group. This registered campus rehearsal, this was actually something new that we tried. This was us creating an open space for clubs on campus who do like dance and whatnot. And we
we got kicked out of lot 22.
Mm.
Yeah, so we were opening this space. They actually didn't use it much. So I kind of want to, just so that we're thinking about the full picture of rehearsals. See, we do have a couple bands, like
Yeah,
we
Sweet Appeal. Yeah, they practice.
have a
And
lot.
that's a closed event.
This is like, let's see, like 9 right there. Yeah, so I would say probably 9 out of a lot. Maybe 10 right here. I see a band rehearsal. But yeah, I can break that up in the future, but just so y'all know right now, that's about how much of that is like a band practicing that's closed. Groove nights had not yet started yet.
Right.
Well, it's exciting to think about all the things that can happen there.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, the paid events, right? There's a big need for that. And now that we're not doing house parties, right? It just
Right.
seems
Just
like,
not paid house parties, free ones.
well, yeah.
Right.
But I mean, there's gotta be
Under
a demand for that, right? And I mean,
There
it
should
seems
be.
like a good thing. And, to have a downtown, like, nightclub scene, I think is like desirable.
We've talked about that for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say I've been working very closely with the group that has been trying the paid events at the center and, asking them, what if we charged $150, would you still want to do it? And based on their profit margins, they've been really transparent with their budget. That's still a really great price, especially compared to some others in the area. So I know we chatted about that at the board retreat, but just bringing it back to y'all's attention, Gaucho Pizza is charging about $1,000 for some events, and we have about the same capacity, if not more. So there is a really big potential there, and I've only been working with one group, which has been pretty successful, but I know that a lot more are coming in the coming year because I've been told they're just waiting to plan in the fall.
Well,
And one thing to think about when we're putting these prices down, like 20 is pretty low. If we have some of these, like mine said 150, it's like, there's just also wear and tear on the building
Yeah,
from
no,
this,
I'm
like on the
thinking the
chairs, on the tables. So it's a fair, I think it could be a fair price because
well, and
we
we
don't
need
have
to make
infinite money
sure
to-
that it's fair to us,
Yeah.
because you're right, that, we will take wear and tear,
yeah,
and then janitorial and everything else.
right. Janitorial is at least 25,000 a year now. Those prices go up every year, right? Because
Of
the company,
course. And the more you use it, the more you have to clean it.
yeah. I think we're at 6 days at the center, Maya. Should we, I think, so we can check, we'll have to maybe move to 7 and see the cost.
And are people independently paying for janitorial? No, it's.
We just do it every day.
Yeah, so 20 is super low for no janitorial.
Right, yeah, I mean, some spaces, they charge you like 60 for cleaning alone.
Well, look at when you do an Airbnb, right?
Right.
God, it's like $150 cleaning fee.
Yeah, yeah.
And they do that at you know, the city of Santa Barbara and city of Galena as well. When they rent out their spaces, it is like a flat rate, and then they also do add on a cleaning fee. So I do think that is something that we can explore for some of these larger events, like a required cleaning fee.
Yeah, no, I think we should be careful of that because that could potentially be a huge issue. And you remember when we talked about it before, I was even contemplating that if there's bodily fluids involved, it can be a hazmat job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, this is really what I wanted to show y'all. If there's anything that you want to see similar to what I showed you with the rehearsals and anything more specific, like I can also pull up the religious gathering sections if you do want to see kind of what that looks like and what the timing is like. But really, I just wanted to show you the information and the potential. We could, you know, if you wanted to try a different number, we could do that as well and see what you feel comfortable with. But yeah, this is just the rough estimate of if we were to charge for everything one flat rate, how much we could make. Um, I also have like on here, when I cut a couple things off and made them free, I came up with the number of about 42,000, and that's just being generous, I guess, on some things that I felt just my own thoughts. But I'm curious to know what is a desired revenue that you all feel we should be aiming to make from these when we start to think about how to price.
I had a quick question first. The in addition to the churches, what percentage or are there big categories in that chart you showed us of nonprofit events? And when I say nonprofit, I mean like actual like 501c3 organizations.
Pretty small amount. You can see it right here. It's about $490 in revenue. I guess I should pull up this one. You could see the number of events. We had about 6 events. I had broken that up into public and private, but they were both such small numbers that I ended up just combining them. I think it was like 3 of each. It was a pretty small amount.
And can you scroll back up just a little bit just so I can see the others? So it seems like even though the purpose of the events are varied, seems like a lot of these fall into like student organizations.
Mm-hmm. Quite a bit.
Yeah. So I guess I have my outside my lane comments, which are what I think we should do as far as how the fee schedule works, which is I think we should have a rate for private individuals. I think we should have a rate for nonprofits and including the religious groups because they're nonprofits as well. And then I think that we should have a waiver of some sort for student slash Isla Vista residents.
What do you mean by that? A waiver of fees? No fees?
Yeah, I won't even get into it. I'll let the people in policy committee figure out how to best do that. But the assumption in what Maya has showed us is that there will be a flat rate for all of these different fees, and I think that there should be different rates for the different types of groups.
Just to make your life complicated.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
I
figured.
I'm trying to figure out how to do this in a way that's as not complicated as possible is my
Yeah.
intention.
Although I have to say, I had kind of the opposite I thought, which is that UCSB groups have access to an enormous UCSB campus. So it seems like for them to take over the Isla Vista Community Center, it should be cost them more.
Yeah, and that's true for like registered campus organizations, but like student bands don't have the ability to rent any rooms on campus. Like if you like just because you're a UCSB student doesn't necessarily give you access to campus facilities.
Gotcha.
So I agree that like maybe when we're talking about registered campus organizations, that's something to consider. And like I definitely think for like Greek life,
And especially if we were
We should be
cheaper than
charging
the
them.
campus, then their gonna take us up for economic reasons, but maybe crowd out other things that don't have any other place to be.
Mhm. And I will
I
say,
think that-
like, this is mainly to provide you like with a probably like a maximum amount of what we could make. Or, you know, not maximum, $20 still low, but you know, kind of if we were keeping it that it's like the max amount. I do want to remind you I am still very much going through all of the highs and lows on that worksheet. And that's a whole separate data set based on preferences, hierarchy, who, what, when, where, why. So I don't want you to think that I want this to be a super simple process. Like we definitely will have a lot more considerations in like how we charge. I think this is just to show you like potential revenue overall.
And I think you're right to be also thinking about ability to pay, like with the campus organizations. When I was a student, they could get a bank account and have money sitting in it through the Office of Student Life, but they no longer do that anymore. So like there's that aspect of it too, is like the infrastructure there for the student groups. But I think the other thing that jumps out at me here that's totally separate from the fee conversation is it does kind of seem like there is a little bit of an equity issue if you do have one specific religious group that has essentially just booked out a really large amount of times at the same time when other religious groups may also want to be using this space, but are not able to reserve it. So that, I mean, I find that a little, I guess, troubling. But that, again, outside my lane, separate conversation that policy committee can have. To answer what my question is for us,
How
what
much
should
do
we
you
set the
want to
number?
raise?
I prefer that we aim low. And I think that that will give the policy committee more flexibility to not feel like they have to be trying to make a policy to meet a target. And that it will give you more flexibility to dive deeper into these things. I also don't want to have the effect of this to be extremely disruptive. I hope that we can capture revenue from groups that have the ability to pay and will continue to use the space and pay, but I don't want the effect of raising the fees to be to push a lot of groups out, you know.
I agree. And also, I think we're feeling our way through this. And we have an intent about the community center and what it does for the Isla Vista community. And that is more important to us than money, I think. And it seems like we have an opportunity here where we can make both things come true. But, you know, we need to feel our way through it. And so, you know, I wouldn't particularly want to hold you to a number, even though obviously when we budget, we're going to have to make an estimate about what we think it'll do. But I think we'll do better than you think.
I think that like, have we done in like, to Spencer's point, like I don't know if certain groups should have the ability, like I think yes, certain groups should like not have to pay, but should we just incorporate that all in like a sliding scale and maybe look at like what other entities that have sliding scales for spaces are like doing with their models to see like, I don't know.
When I did look at around, because I was thinking the same thing, there's got to be some sort of sliding scale. A lot of people don't put what it is online. I would maybe need to find someone and set up a meeting with them, but just for reference, these are some of the other local things that people can rent and about how much they cost. I was gonna say something else. Oh, a big thing that came up, which again, I don't know if this is the right conversation for this, but just to consider, a lot of people were noting on their worksheets about frequency of something. And so there could even be something where maybe the first X amount of something is free, but if you want to continue to use it, you know, like there could be things like that as well that put in place for some sort of limitation, I think, on some of the, we don't want the group the space to be monopolized is what I'm hearing. So there's also things like that we can try and put in place too.
I
Yeah, I
like
think
that
that's
idea.
important. And then, we don't want it to seem like, the Church of the Sacred Heart space. Or, not to pick on a church, but, anybody, the Church of the
Yeah,
Band
but this is
Rehearsal.
their space.
Yeah,
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 exactly.
we
Oh,
don't
this is
want-
a community space.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We wanted to have a strong identification with any particular user.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think having the first tenor this, the second tenor that kind of model would work.
Yeah, I think not even like if we're talking like quarter wise and there's only 10 weeks in a quarter, I really think it should be, well, I'm also on policy committee, I can bring this up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into
Yeah,
it in 2
the
weeks.
policy
Yeah.
committee's gonna have fun with this.
Yeah.
There's a lot to dig into.
It's
and-
honestly so nice to be on finance and
Right.
policy. Like I'm like, I know everything that's going on.
I don't think anyone's done that before in a while. At least. In a while, yeah.
Knowing everything that was going on.
We used to have
Only
formation
done that.
and that just complicated everything because formation had a hand in everything.
Me,
Hey,
I-
Maya, can
Oh,
you
yeah.
pull up the very first spreadsheet that you showed at the retreat? With all the colors?
This one?
And I would assume that, we're gonna fumble our way through this, that, we're not gonna just like hit it right out of the gate. We're gonna
Not
like
perfect
keep
right away.
adjusting as we go.
Yeah.
And
Also,
that's
like community
very
meetings,
appropriate.
conversations with, our existing users and yeah, this is a beginning of a very, very
And
long.
if we have some unintended consequences that are negative, we wanna be quick to rectify any bad situations that we develop.
Mhm.
So if we need to set a number today, I would favor doing something around 10,000.
That's what we have in right now.
Perfect. I favor what we're doing right now.
Okay.
I think we could go a little higher.
Yeah, I agree.
But
If we-
even
if-
20.
If we wanted to set a higher goal, I think that one other way, and this might be just good policy in general, is to say, let's cover the cost of our janitorial contract.
That's like 23, 24.
That seems fair to me.
That's a good thing to peg it to, too.
People's number one thing about the space that they like, at least the last time I remember it, was how clean it is.
Fire.
It's
That's
pretty clean.
super important.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
super important. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the impression we want to give of Isla Vista too. So, we can't
Clean.
get shabby.
Yeah. And I also think that like for some of these groups, like especially for the events that are profiting, or those that are private and like have the capacity to be charged more, I don't see like why we shouldn't.
Mhm.
Like if
Yeah.
market price is so significantly higher than what we're charging right now, like for private profit events, like why not charge more?
The private, the closed meetings.
Can you pull up, sorry, I'm having you jump around, Maya. Can you pull up the spreadsheet of the other venues again?
Of course.
Am I reading that correctly, that to rent Anascoyo Park costs $1,700 a day?
If there's 500 to 1,000 people there.
So at like max capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are
Well, I'll even,
that's expensive.
I will say my, the comment to Carrie that I whispered to everyone, because I mean, this is an
On
example of what I hope that we avoid, which is that it is my impression that that space is not used for very many 500 to 1,000 person events. And $1,700 is a pretty steep fee.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think that a light touch when figuring this out is always better, because you can always adjust upwards. It's harder to adjust downwards if you end up charging too many groups or charging too high of a fee. because you may have lost those users because they started looking for other options.
It's like the whole, like, you know, what's the most efficient tax rate? You know, if you tax too much,
Mhm.
it's not good. If you tax too little, it's not good either.
Yeah, and in suggesting that, like, I don't think we should really go any higher than like anywhere else. Like, I wouldn't really want to see us go above like what, $50 an hour,
Mhm.
except for the parks. That's like the lowest number for like any event, but like, you know, 20 versus 50.
Maya, what's our, I know we don't have the number super solid right now, but what's the community center occupation?
Oh, occupancy. I have been thinking it's around 400. Yeah.
That's just.
I
it. That's a
know,
big- that's
Yeah.
a
and that,
lot of-
yeah,
Not
and
with with tables, it's like maybe
less.
50 or more, but not around.
We have had a yoga, or I think it was a fitness class, and I think they fit about 110.
Whoa, that's surprising.
Yeah, it was packed.
No,
And
I think
like
it's-
that.
Everyone's on the go
I was there for that. It was.
well,
Yeah.
that's good, right?
Did that include people on the patio, or were they all inside?
No, that was all inside.
Oh, wow.
And so that's
great.
why I think that the patio and the lawn, like we're trying to get different numbers because obviously I'm thinking like 400 be all standing, right? And that's still kind of a very big estimate, you know.
Yeah.
But if we had like the patio and the lawn, I think that would be a lot more. And even if we were to, you know, think about when we do things in the parking lot, which we do a lot, that also increases capacity. And when we're looking at the community room, I think it's a pretty solid like 50 max. But again, we are in the process of actually confirming that with the fire department. So we'll hopefully have more numbers for the policy committee when we meet.
Well, thank you very much. I think that that's exciting.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm really looking forward. I'm very excited for the policy committee meeting because taking all of the worksheets has been a lot of fun and trying to code everything. So that'll be fun to present for those who are there. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya.
So I think that's it.
That's
huh?
everything for today.
Okay, and we have set the date of our next meeting.
Yes, we have. The next meeting is on June 12th.
June 12th, also at 5:30.
Yes.
I have it on my calendar, but
It's not on
I'm
the
open to
agenda.
my agenda, not my calendar. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for some good discussions. And Jonathan, you feel like you have some good
I've got
direction
it.
to move ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know I might have to be remote on the 12th,
Okay,
but
you don't
Also-
need to tell us why,
Yeah.
because we know you have like a wild life that pulls you in many different directions.
no, I'm just gonna maybe be on like vacation technically, but I can be here for the 12th.
Well, thank you for that. Okay, then, here at 6:25, I will adjourn the meeting.